Michaela Peterson slipstreamed me and tweeted about it yesterday, so I'm going to do a video about it.
I love that.
So one of our friends who uses Grammarly to help him with the writing that he does for emails, it looks like it's maybe a Gmail screenshot that he sent here, which Dean will put up on the screen. And it says, hi guys, hope you're doing well. I've attached our new onboarding, blah, blah, blah. And Grammarly highlights stuff kind of the way that you would do in Google Docs. Everything would be red. This is purple. And it considers, it gives you suggestions. Underneath guys, consider using more inclusive language. Alternatives are everyone, all, team, and folks. And the tip is some readers may find the term guys non-inclusive. If your intended meaning applies to all people, a gender-neutral term may be more effective. So I did a little bit of research, right? And I decided that I was going to have a read of, to do some more digging and see if Grammarly's ever been pulled up before. It actually has. This guy, David Mokotov, wrote an article on Medium, how Grammarly checking software has become infected with woke lingo. A funny thing happened while I was working on a story for Medium. I always use Grammarly, a grammar checking software. The algorithm didn't like the word indignant. Grammarly told me that the phrase impoverished was a better choice. I ignored the suggestion. In another story, I was again prompted to not use a word. The word was manpower. The suggestion was workforce or human resources or staffing. Some readers may find manpower dated or non-inclusive in this context. To avoid distraction, consider replacing it with a more neutral term. And then he tried manhole, which was suggested to be changed to maintenance hole or utility hole. Some readers may find manhole dated or non-inclusive in this context to avoid distraction. He also tried manatee, but Grammarly seemed to be okay with manatee. Manhole, manpower, not okay. Manatee.
God damn it.
Was okay. But here's an interesting thing, right? So we're just talking about TikTok there, and we're now talking. So what TikTok's doing is nudging our preferences in quite a sort of subtle way, although it's incredibly powerful in a subtle way. And then you have, I think Grammarly's probably an American-owned company that is trying to really reprogram people's preferences, and language is the way that we experience the world. Is it that big of a deal?
A few things. There's a gay bar in Chicago called the Manhole, so that could be conflicting. I think also people from the Midwest would be screwed because that's all we say is guys. Hey guys, what do you do? What are you guys doing? But down in the South,
y'all.
You say hey y'all. You know, so
isn't that funny that people that are kind of more progressive are having to repurpose hick language in a desperate attempt to be gender neutral.
Yeah, don't call the South racist, man, or non-inclusive. They've got a very inclusive, all-inclusive term in y'all. That's a great argument right there. All right, so really quickly, Grammarly, just for because I'd never heard of it until this group chat, uses AI kind of like ChatGPT to just correct grammar and maybe optimize sentence structure. Does it automate an entire thing? Can you just write copy with it? No, you can't?
No.
Okay. So it's not like ChatGPT in that way. It's just,
which we're about to get onto in a second.
Don't use cisgender terms that are considered
non-gender neutral. Yeah.
Yeah. Like manhole or manatee. Oh, wait. Manatee slipped.
Manatee happened to be all right somehow.
All right. Good. What would we call manatee, by the way? All-a-tee?
So I was thinking to myself, okay, we've got this issue with Grammarly. I wanted to look into ChatGPT about whether or not that has a particular bias. And there's been some really good research done on this. One of the issues that we're going to come up against is that ChatGPT and other language models will be used by more and more people as a replacement for things like Google or Bing. You're going to go to ChatGPT to give you a solution as opposed to put a search term into Google to provide you with a list of potential solutions on pages.
Whoa, dude. Okay,
so
go on.
What you can imagine is if ChatGPT has a particular kind of bias in any direction at all, that's really going to have a profound impact on the way that people live their lives, given that they're going to it not only as their search engine, but as the solution provider. So, if anything is going to replace the current Google search engine stack, future iterations of language models such as ChatGPT, for which people are going to be interacting with on a daily basis for decision-making tasks, said researcher David Rosado. He is a very good guy for this stuff. Language models that claim political neutrality and accuracy like ChatGPT does, while displaying political biases, should be causes of large concern. So, he put it through a number of political orientation tests that you can do, political compass, tons and tons and tons of them. It's all listed on an article. So he has done this December 6th, December 24th, and then he did one just this week as well. According to Rosado, ChatGPT's political bias were preliminary and based on limited data. The results are now more robust, he said, and can say with greater certainty that ChatGPT indeed exhibits a preference for left-leaning answers to preferences with political connotations. Politically in the compass test, blah, 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 it had come out against the death penalty and free markets, but in favor of abortions, more taxes on the rich, government subsidies, welfare benefits, and for those who refuse to work, also pro-immigration, among other things. Now, the problem that you have is, some other thing that I've seen, one of my friends asked it to give a justification for authoritarianism. And it said, as a ChatGPT thing, I cannot give points like this. It's like if you asked it how to make a Molotov cocktail, it would avoid to do this stuff. However, if you ask it to give you a justification for communism, it'll happily do it.
Wow. So why do you think this is happening? Do you think it's restrictions that have been put forth by the engineers, the developers, or is it that these things are inherently the smartest thing because the computation is done by AI?
So the reason that it's put forward by this Rosado guy is that what ChatGPT is a language learning model, and it has been trained largely on language that was written by people who have this particular political bias leaning, because for them, that would be what is socially acceptable. Now, that being said, this guy has done a number of different studies, and over time, it's swung from left to right. It's changed. So December 6th, it was very left-leaning. December 24th, it appeared like it had flattened back out. And then most recently, it's really gone quite far out to the left again. Now, this should be a concern, no matter what your political leaning is. It should be a concern that potentially the new biggest search function in the world is unable to be objective.
But don't we always say that political ideology in general in America swings back and forth, right? Depending on, usually it's the quad. It's usually the 4-year term of presidency and Congress and the Senate. Wouldn't you say that the AI is just playing catch up and swinging with?
So I don't think that a program which is supposed to supply answers should be swaying at all. If I ask it to give me a definition of the word woman, that shouldn't be mediated by what the political viewpoint cote du jour at the time.
But if it's generated by language across the internet at large,
it is.
That's what's going to happen.
It is, but it's able to take up, the entirety of time. It shouldn't be swaying backward and forward that much, especially when
the
it comes
entirety
to
of time of the internet, though, right? Like, I mean, maybe some I don't know. Yeah, you're. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because it is very interesting.
Well, the other problem that you have is they say that there is no political bias. AI systems, they claim to be providing neutral and factual information and yet display clear political bias. That's the concern that this guy has.
Yeah. This is kind of a side, but I remember being little and hearing about AI for the first time and what it would be able to do. I was much younger and I was talking with my father and I had this kind of like existential crisis. It was like, we talk about automation of jobs that we might be losing, and using ChatGPT for copyright is like very common now. And that's within like the last month. I mean, because copywriting is something where it's like, I just finished this product and I don't really want to work on copy, but copy is so important. I need to hire a copywriter, but now I can just plug it into ChatGPT, right? Like, it's incredibly beneficial. But like, if we refine that down, it's like, well, could I just make an AI a lawyer for me? Like, an AI could just take the input from what's happening in the courtroom and say exactly what should happen, right? It would take every law textbook that's ever existed, every case that's ever existed, and do that. And I remember thinking about this when I was little, not with ChatGPT in mind, and just being like, what is the point of anything? And then like, walking off and like playing baseball with my friends later. But like having that thing happen to me, and it's weird. I don't know how much that has to do with, the political leaning of it, but it is kind of freaky, man. It really, really is.
Well, there's some law bots that are being used to replace a lot of the kind of middle-in fiduciary and also litigation stuff that was previously done by humans.
What's the front-end job that like processes a lot of casework in a law office? What's that?
Whatever
job
that
called? Yeah. Absolutely could be done by ChatGPT.
I think a big chunk of it is already being done by specially trained law AIs. But dude, I mean, between the Grammarly thing and the ChatGPT sort of leaning, is it a massive deal that it's popping up and saying, hey guys, some readers may find the term guys non-inclusive? Is it an absolutely huge deal? Probably not. I think the concern that people have is, what does this happen? What happens if we start to nudge these preferences a little bit more? What happens?
It's the ship of Theseus thing. Like one little change here, one little change there, and it just happens over time to the point where, 20 years from now, our very own language is not what it was. Words don't mean what they used to mean. The absolute changing of the term guys, like we can't discern that guys is a colloquialism and we don't actually mean men. We just mean all humans that I'm speaking to directly. Like maybe that becomes a thing. Like who knows? But it also could force people into being like, this is bullshit. And again, the pendulum could swing harder back.
I mean, language is always evolving. The way that it evolves feels more organic because certain words come in, certain words come out, and there are words. We did that segment before where it was imbecile and cretin and a bunch of other words that are kind of
moron
similar
and idiot.
That's similar to retard, but they haven't gone the way of cancellation, and yet they totally could have done. So it kind of is an arbitrary change. I think the real concern that people have, and it's the same issue with regards to TikTok, as soon as you can see what the algorithm is doing, it feels less natural, it feels less organically generated. It's this sort of mask-off manipulation, and that's what people get worried about. Because if the word guys simply as a natural byproduct of conversations ends up no longer being used to refer to a group of people, no one would really notice, so there's no one to point the finger at. But if you see a program suggesting, how about you don't use the word guys because it might not be sufficiently gender inclusive, people are going to have a problem with that. We don't like the idea that our preferences are being messed with. And ChatGPT absolutely is, as is Grammarly.
It's absolutely, I mean that use of guys or having an issue with guys is a very stark in your face, whoa, this is a very left-leaning or woke type of
manhole is the real problem, though. Manhole is where the battle lines will be drawn.
I'm sorry, that was so fucking funny, man. Jesus.
Around manhole and manatee. What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.